What's happening, my YouTube friends and family? Hope everyone's doing well. This video is a little different. Most of my subscribers have like a bigger interest in Amazon and starting trucking companies with box trucks and dry vans. This particular topic touches more on the hotshot industry, or I hate when people try and break it up at like it's a separate industry. We're all in the trucking industry, and hotshotting is a segment of it. It's a service within the trucking industry. No different than box truck is a segment, and dry vans is a segment, and so is reefers. Anyway, so it's come up a handful of times on a few different groups, and the problem is we spent so much time debating whether or not it was legitimate to get around the CDL requirement by simply derating a trailer, and it's become the norm, and a lot of us kind of just accept that that's what it is. But it is a loophole, and it's a loophole that's not legitimate. Let me turn back the hands of time a little bit. I'm a little bit older than most of you guys, and unlike some of you, not all, but unlike some of you, trucking wasn't a second career option for me. We had trucks on the farm when I hit puberty. When I hit puberty, I was driving a 6x6 24-foot flatbed, and we were picking up hay bales, and I was too scrawny to manually lift a bale. We were poor, so we didn't have an elevator like some, and I was too scrawny I could get one up onto the flatbed, but I couldn't lift one beyond the flatbed height, and even with someone on top trying to grab it with a hook, it was just too far a reach. So they taught me how to drive the truck. Granted, we were just in a field, right? Anyway, so I've been around trucks all my life. I got my CDL in 1986, 3 days after my 18th birthday. And some of you are going to say, oh, well, that's illegal. Nope, I stayed within the state of California. I didn't drive anywhere else, and so I was perfectly legal. Anyway, so this thing with hotshotters derating the trailer, it's not a new idea, guys. Hotshotters didn't invent anything, and kind of like some of the OGs in the neighborhood would say to us punks when we were being silly, what you're doing now has already been done, fool. You're not special. And that's what we would get told by the old schoolers. Anyways, and so the idea of derating trailers is not new. Your companies that pull doubles all over the place, they tried doing that years ago, and this is kind of where this comes into play. I'm going to explain this just so you guys understand what I'm getting at. So companies that were pulling doubles and triples in some states started derating their trailers to 24,000 pounds. Now your single axle has a 20,000 pound capacity, but your 27 and 28 foot box trailer that you stack two and in some states three had a higher gross vehicle weight rating. And right now you're thinking, Miguel, that's stupid. You still need a CDL if you're going to pull two of them. Yes, but here's what they were doing. So they were derating these trailers to avoid FET. Okay, your federal excise tax on a trailer kicks in after, I believe it's 26,000 pounds, and it kicks in on a power unit at 32,000 pounds. And so I became all too aware of this because back when I had my rental business, we were a Terex Genie dealership, and part of the product line that we had available to us was Load King trailers. And in fact, I worked with Load King to redesign their existing trailer to make it fit the rental industry. And basically make it more suitable for what we were doing. I had them change some angles on their ramp, a ride height issue, and then we changed a variety of things just to make like the smaller equipment load better, such as your, scissor lifts. They're really low profile, and so I had them position the axles in a slightly different place so that when you would kneel the trailer down by dumping the air, it made a better angle, yada yada yada. Anyways, so when we became a dealership for them, we needed to register with our state for collecting the tax that's due when you sell such equipment for intrastate guys. The interstate guys are tax-free. And so if you watched my other videos regarding, tax exemptions, that's kind of how I got educated on that. The state of California back then had something called the State Board of Equalization. That's where they collect their taxes through. Anyways, and so when we created our account to forward and pay the federal excise tax, which is 12%, by the way, it's 12%. So whatever you get invoiced on your trailer, you pay 12% federal excise tax, plus each tire has a federal excise tax based on its rating. That's like a whole separate, I'm not going to go into that. Anyway, so what was happening was some of these companies started derating their trailers from the factory. And I also learned this when I was a Load King dealer. As far as the factory is concerned, if you do not get them to derate it and issue you a new tag, if you're doing that thing where you're buying a plate on Amazon custom punched to reflect whatever numbers you have, technically it's not derated. You are, what do you want me to tell you? You're doing your own thing by putting your own tag that is federally required to be on your vehicle, okay? But that's your move. I'm not going to say one way or the other, but technically your trailer has not been derated if you did not receive the plate from the manufacturer. Now, is a cop on the side of the road going to call the manufacturer and say, hey, is this tag correct? But what I learned from them was the trailer does not have a different rating if they did not issue the tag and didn't document it in that trailer's portfolio. Anyway, let me get back to the point. So because all of these companies were doing this, the government, they keep statistics. They find out from these manufacturers, hey, well, we built X amount of trailers this year. So many of them were this, so many of them were that, so many of them were the other. The government quickly realized, how come we're not getting the same kind of revenue we got before? But shit, they're making tons and tons of trailers. So then they discovered that people were ordering this equipment derated, and they took action. So they had state inspection stations start making you drop your trailer. So you would go across the scale, they would come up with the total, they would have you drop your trailer, and if your trailer had a gross vehicle weight rating of 26,000 pounds, and when you dropped that trailer, all of a sudden you dropped 30,000 pounds, you're overweight. And now what they're doing is essentially the same thing. And so now if you take a 14,000 pound pickup truck and a 14,000 pound trailer and you derate it to 12, the problem is when you go across that scale, if they do the same thing to you, they say drop your trailer and they come weigh your truck, and the total is 14,000 that you have now dropped off. In other words, your truck weighs about 12, and you dropped off a whole bunch of weight. You have now exceeded the gross vehicle weight rating of that vehicle. More importantly, you are now required to have a CDL. And some of you guys are shaking your head saying, no, Miguel, I've read the thing 10 times. I got a little snip here from the same verbiage that we all recognize. I'll read it off to you. I'm also going to put in a little snip that shows what the definition of gross vehicle weight rating is. What you guys are doing is you're taking a trailer, and I'm just going to use an example, don't quote the math, but when a manufacturer builds a trailer, and I tell you this because I was a trailer dealer, the gross vehicle weight rating is for everything that the trailer has to bear in weight. And what that means is, if you have a pair of axles in the back, and I'm talking about semis, but the same thing applies. So if I have a 34,000 pound tandem combination on the tail end of a trailer, the gross vehicle weight rating for that vehicle is not 34,000. That's the gross axle weight rating. The manufacturer includes the weight that is going to sit forward of those axles, and that weight is going to transfer onto the kingpin, ultimately via the fifth wheel or panel hook, or however your trailer connects. It's going to transfer weight to your tow vehicle. And so what happens here is, for example, I'll try and put a shot here. I got my old, my old Load King trailer here, and I used to haul my rental equipment with it. So I could put two 60-foot booms on it. Each boom weighed 22,000 pounds. I only had 34,000 pound axles on the back. That trailer I custom ordered with 25,000 each axle. So I had bigger brakes, yada, 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 but that's whole nother story. I could only legal 34, but the gross vehicle weight rating for that trailer was 70,000 pounds. That is to include the weight being transferred onto the truck. And so I'll try and insert a little snip here at the end showing the definition of gross vehicle weight rating, and then we'll look at what am I trying to say? We'll look at that chart, that flow chart that we all look at to determine whether or not we need a CDL, and you're going to see at the very bottom, there's a caption in there that catches you by the short and curlies, guys. It says very clearly that the gross vehicle combination is a combination either of the two ratings added together or actual weight of either vehicle, whichever makes a larger gross. Now, I just blurted that out off of memory. I may have a word or two in the wrong place, but we'll read it together here in a minute, and you're going to see that if you think you're running legal because your derated trailer says 12,000 pounds and your power unit says 14, when you disconnect the two, if your trailer has more than 12,000 pounds on it, they can take that weight and add it to your 14, the way this is worded, and then right beneath it, it says, this is not for licensing purposes, this is only for enforcement. So you can't use that combination to go get your CDL. That's what sucks, okay? That's what's really gonna pinch people. You can't use that to go get your CDL, but they can use it to pop you for not having a CDL. And this isn't just my opinion, guys. Those of you that do hot shotting, Toe Piglet has a video. I think one of his guys got caught, and there's been like 2 or 3 different topics now on the hotshot groups where people are saying, oh, this cop popped me for this and he was wrong and blah, blah, blah. If you read the letter of the law, the cop is not wrong. And some states are starting to figure out, they're starting to train their officers how to enforce this. So the reason I bring up my age, I was around, I know I'm old. I was around when they were like strictly looking at what is your gross vehicle weight rating, and is it possible that if you have 34,000 sitting on your axles and there's a 60-foot boom sitting back here over these axles, and you have another one on the upper deck bearing all that weight down on your tractor, how in the world can you be doing that with a 40,000 GVW trailer? You can't. And back in the day, they were doing it because people were evading the tax, basically the FET. People were trying to get around it, and so believe me, government wants their money. Okay, you can try and sneak around without a CDL, and I get that we all feel that combination is legal as long as we read the letter of the word and it says, you know, your gross vehicle weight rating doesn't exceed it. But when I show you this and you read it, you have to draw the conclusion that they can enforce this. And I think what's happening is in some states, at some levels, they are now training their officers to pop this. older guys, my age and older, you know, they were around when the whole little pup trailer thing happened, the little 28 footers that they use in doubles. And so they remember how they enforced it and what they did. And some of those older guys know what's up. Some of your newer guys don't. And when I say newer guys, they can be older. You have to remember, not all of these people have been DOT enforcement officers their whole lives. Most of them, you know, used to do traffic enforcement or whatever, and they moved over to this side of the business just because they did. That was what they wanted to specialize in. And so some of these guys weren't around back in the 70s and 80s when this was kind of a fad, and they don't know the enforcement side of it because they never had to enforce that. Contrary to popular belief, every cop sitting on the side of the road does not know all the regulations. They've been trained how to interpret regulations, as have I when I became a third-party qualifier. And so I'm not a specialist on your driver's licenses, but I can read the driver's license regulations, and I've been trained on how to interpret them. So as I read this, it's correct. The couple guys that have stated I got a ticket because they weighed my trailer without my truck, that's the correct course of action, and they popped them. And I'm not saying all of you guys should run and hide because it's coming, but some states are starting to do this. They're figuring out the loophole, and yes, it's a loophole. We're cheating by derating the trailers, and I got a derated trailer myself, even though my CDL driver had a CDL. My non-CDL rig was running this way for one reason and one reason alone. We ran short haul exemption, and before the feds changed the rule about a year ago, we were limited to 100 air miles without a logbook, thus an ELD. I didn't really want to bother with it, but it let me hit a whole nother market, because that extra 50 miles for us going from Carlsbad, New Mexico to Odessa, Texas is within 150 miles. At 100 miles, I could only get down to Pecos. So it opened up a whole nother market running non-CDL. So I took a CDL trailer, and when I say CDL trailer, I had dual 10,000 pound axles. I singled them out and derated the trailer. That was perfect for the heavy duty, you know, oil field environment. Maybe I'll insert a little snip of it, but I put super singles on it, and rolling down the highway, it looked like a non-CDL rig. But then when you look at it closely, you're like, this thing's got monster brakes on it. What the hell? Anyways, I'll right after this, I'll show you guys what I mean. And some of you are still not going to agree. I'm not asking you to. I'm just putting it out there to help you guys, to get you ready for it, to understand what might be coming. I don't know how serious this is going to be, if it's a rogue cop or two, but it's funny because Toe Piglet mentioned it like 5 months ago, and I even commented on his video. I'm like, bro, you say DOT is in the gray area, non-CDL hotshots the gray area, DOT is enforcing the law. And he sent me a message. I've got him on other social media. We message each other on Messenger, and he's like, I think you're right, bro. And I'm like, no, I'm right. I know I'm right, but it is what it is. Anyways, check this out, and hopefully it helps some of you. Most of my guys are not in hot shots, most of my subscribers, but hopefully it helps the hot shot guys out. All right, so here we're looking at basically a screenshot of the Class C limits, if you want to call them that, and it shows for the most part what everybody agrees with, that, you know, it's 26,000 pound combination. The funny thing is, if you read that carefully, I've been telling people for decades, you can run 36,000 pounds, and it says it right here. You can run a 26,000 pound single vehicle and use it to tow a 10,000 pound trailer, and it says so right there. And so, okay, as we look at this, it's the typical flow chart that everyone always likes to refer to. And then when we scroll down to the bottom part, you'll see under the gross vehicle combination definition, it states there that if it's not listed on the federal tag on the side of the vehicle, semi-trucks will usually have the 80,000 pounds right on it. Then what they do is they take the combination of the two tags, or a combination of the gross vehicle weight. Notice it says weight, not the rating. And then it says they can combine either of the two to make the greater combination. Do you get what that says? Do you see where that just went? So, okay, what does this mean? Well, it basically means that if you have derated your trailer, let's just say to 12,000 pounds, but you have 15,000 pounds in the trailer overall, including the weight going over to the gooseneck, they can and will detach your truck from the trailer and weigh them individually. Then they can take the combination of the two, whichever makes the higher combo, as it says here. So if your truck has a 14,000 vehicle GVWR, and then your trailer weighs 15, once you've detached it, they're going to add those two up. You're going to be over 26,000 pounds, and they're going to pop you for not having a CDL. And so, okay, some of you right now are shaking your head saying, I'm wrong, but read the very next statement. They've made it in bold red letters. They are saying that this will be enforced for the sake of enforcement on roadside. However, they are not going to allow you to take that same combination and go get your test. That's basically what they're telling us, guys. They can use this to enforce that you don't have a CDL, but you can't use that same combination to go take your test. They're kind of jacking us. And so right about now, some of you are thinking, oh, they can't get away with that. I'll get a good attorney. We'll fight this. We'll beat this. Here's the problem. When you look at what the definition of gross vehicle weight rating is, it states very clearly that it is all of the weight the vehicle can bear as a single unit. And what we are doing here is we are transferring weight from that single unit off onto the other, and we're trying to hide it in the rating by derating the trailer. Manufacturers have forever done it correctly. The reason you get two 7,000 pound axles on the trailer you're derating, or let's just say even a bigger trailer, my particular trailer that I talked about a minute ago had two 10,000 pound axles, but the trailer's gross vehicle weight rating was like 22,000, because they're expecting at very minimum you're going to put 2,000 pounds of that off on the truck. And so the net result here is this can be somewhat devastating to your non-CDL hotshot business, because you have structured everything for non-CDL, and now all of a sudden you can be in the middle of a run, enjoying your day, having a great old time, and the next thing you know, you're out of service. Anyways, guys, I didn't make this up. I've known about this for a while. Again, because I'm older, I knew they were popping people for derating trailers trying to avoid FET. Now they're using the same tactic to pop people trying to avoid CDL. Anyways, as always, guys, thanks for watching. All right, guys. So if you've watched this far, thanks for watching. The disclaimer part, I'm not an attorney. I've been trained on how to interpret licensing laws by the state of California. I used to be a third-party qualifier, which means I could sign a document and issue you a CDL based on my training and my administering of your skills test. Anyway, that being said, I'm not an attorney. I've never seen a ticket like this. I know it can be done because it was happening for the sake of making people pay their taxes. A few people on Facebook have said they got cited this way. I didn't see the actual citation, and so take that with a grain of salt. My advice would be, especially for those that are operating as a non-CDL carrier and you do not have a CDL. If you have a CDL, they can really only write you for exceeding the gross vehicle weight rating of the vehicle. And I guess you'd have to look up that regulation and see how that one's written. But having said that, if you're a non-CDL operator operating as non-CDL, the problem is once they determine you've gone over the way they word it, the way they can make their combination, they can take your gross vehicle weight rating of the power unit, and then they can take the gross vehicle weight of the trailer once detached and add those, and that's exactly what that says they can do. Then they're going to claim you don't have a CDL, and they're going to take you out of service, and you're going to get a citation and yada yada yada. So if you're operating that way, my recommendation to you would be, if you have one of those, like you pay annually for an attorney service, or basically you have an attorney or a company on retainer, I would forward this information to them, lay out the example the way I've explained it kind of happens, and see what their reply is. Only from the standpoint of, I've heard some people, or I've read on Facebook, some people say, oh, you should have never dropped your trailer, they can't make you do that. I don't know how true that is. And so these are questions you want to ask your attorney and kind of come up with a game plan to hopefully not get you out of service. And if that includes don't cooperate and don't drop your trailer, I don't know what the legal ramifications are, and that's why I'm saying contact your own attorney, come up with a game plan, and best of luck to you, because this can be bad, especially if a lot of states start getting on board with it. There's a lot of non-CDL operators out there, and as of February of this year, they just made it more difficult to get your CDL, more expensive more than anything, right? Because most of you operating your non-CDL pickup truck, if you get a CDL trailer behind the same pickup truck, there's really not a whole lot to learn. You're already doing the work. In fact, getting your CDL at that point should be a whole lot easier because you've been practicing with your non-CDL trailer for however long you've been doing this. Unlike some people that decide they want to be a trucker and they've never backed a trailer in their life and they want to go get in a semi-truck, that's a hard learning curve. For those of us already out working, even like taking the test is easier because the terminology makes sense. We're already doing the work. Anyways, guys, as always, thanks for watching. Those of you guys that are my box truck subscribers, you probably don't really care about this video, but I do participate actively in quite a few hotshot groups, and this is a topic that affects them, and it affects them in a big way if it's true that states are gearing up to enforce this way. It's been a few people now that have mentioned it. So, and by the way, the book I pulled that from was the state of Texas. You guys can go to the state of Texas, download the CDL manual, and you will find that verbiage. That's where I copied it from. But most states will probably have the same, if not very similar verbiage. Anyways, as always, thanks for watching. It's Memorial Day weekend. You guys enjoy the Memorial Day weekend, and thanks to all those that made the ultimate sacrifice for our freedom. Appreciate it.